Well, it's time now for some tech on the program. And France's Le Monde newspaper has signed a deal with OpenAI, allowing the company to use the paper's content to train its AI models. It's the opposite approach to the New York Times, which sued OpenAI for copyright infringement after its chatbot, ChatGPT, appeared to reproduce excerpts from the newspaper's archive. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by our technology editor, Peter O'Brien. Peter, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Seek deals or seek damages. It seems that is now the choice that media companies are facing.
Yeah, that's right. It's almost a part two of publishers versus big tech. We already had this dispute between publishers, regulators, and Google and Facebook, who eventually have struck deals worth hundreds of millions of euros in the EU, Canada, and Australia because they were using publishers' content on their feeds without necessarily permission at first. And now we're kind of seeing the same thing play out with AI. So if you look at the New York Times and The Intercept, they're some of the ones who have decided to sue OpenAI, claiming that they're using their journalists' work without permission to use for the data that's used to train their AI models. So it's not necessarily data that's immediately available, but it's stuff that's used to train the models. And now others, like, as you say, Le Monde, the Associated Press, and Axel Springer, have gone for a different approach. They've actually signed deals with OpenAI, which allow, presumably in exchange for some either monetary compensation or for their own content to be sort of promoted on AI platforms. They've signed deals for their journalists' work to be used to train OpenAI's models. Now, these AI companies say that they're just using publicly available data, which is fine. I mean, Mira Murati, the chief technology officer of OpenAI, said this this week in an interview with the Wall Street Journal. It was a bit of a car crash. She couldn't actually say which kinds of data were used specifically. And it may seem like an obvious point, but if they're saying that the data is just publicly available so they can just use all of it, well, why are they striking deals with publishers then?
Yeah, no, clearly they know that's not going to fly for a lot of companies.
Yeah.
It also makes me wonder what the journalists think about this deal that Le Monde has made. Peter, what about people that don't have the deep pockets or the negotiating power that big media companies have to make these kinds of deals?
Yeah, well, you touched upon it there. I mean, freelance journalists, anyone who doesn't have those deep pockets and strike these deals is feeling sort of left out. I mean, we released a report this week about how France is throwing its weight behind AI, and actually we got a lot of illustrators and artists very angrily saying, well, actually our work has been plagiarized to train these models. That's what they're alleging, and now the government is just throwing us under the bus in order to try and become a leader in AI. And they're not the only ones who kind of feel left out in terms of how these models are trained. There's also content moderators, thousands of them, who look for a lot of harmful and disturbing content to make sure it's not fed to AI systems. Our Kenya correspondent Olivia Bizo released a report this week when she talked to one of these content moderators.
AI tools like ChatGPT work almost like magic, but there's no quick trick for building them. Thousands of workers, like Richard, have spent months filtering toxic content out of the data used to train OpenAI. After reviewing scenes of child abuse and bestiality, he's been left traumatized.
You had to go through all of these statements. You had to go through all these 250 content within a day. And all of these are actually disturbing and traumatic content.
Richard and 3 other moderators decided it was time for change. They filed a petition in Parliament with the help of this lawyer.
Because this is new age work, we've never experienced this, we didn't prepare for this. Our occupational laws don't even acknowledge harm to mental health as being occupational illnesses. So how do we change that? And that's where the idea of petitioning Parliament came from.
And you can find the full report on the France 24 website.
All right, Peter, thank you so much. Always interesting stuff from you. Makes me wonder if France 24 is going to sign a deal with an AI
I'm not going
company.
to speculate on that. I don't know.
That'll be for another day. Peter,